Everybody, Chris and Lumen here. I'm going to continue from yesterday's video. Much has happened. My brain is changing very rapidly. I'm a little bit, I don't know how to put it. But I will say this. What the last couple of days has revealed simplifies things. You don't have to, I don't believe you have to. It depends on what you want to do. It's really up to you. I don't believe you are required to do the whole hero's journey thing. But in this reality, in this place, it is set up a certain way. Like there's all these archetypes. So I used to never understand archetypes before, but now I think I do. There's all these archetypes that are mainly associated with the hero's journey loaded into your game cartridge. And it's basically framed around, like, let's just call it the Game of Thrones, like in tarot. Kings and queens and princesses and, towers and dragons and all that stuff. These are archetypes. How they manifest into your life is going to vary a little bit, but you don't. It really depends on what your aspirations are in this lifetime. Me, I took the hardest road possible, which is to completely beat the game and go to the next game. That's a big bite. That's a big bite. Now, not everybody is really going to be that invested in that much of a commitment. What they really just want is for their life to be better. And I can understand that. A good metaphor, if you have watched Westworld in season 1, at some point there's a part where they show young William visiting the park for the first time, and it is kind of sort of being explained to him how it works. And you got the main town. It's like you can stay in the main town and do all sorts of cool little things and have fun and pretend you're in Westworld and all this stuff. But the further out you go, the crazier it gets. And then you got, old William, Ed Harris. He's found like there's a secret map. Like he's like, there's a game behind the game he's trying to find. So it's a little bit like that. You don't necessarily have to do it all, but there are certain mechanisms within us that are going to run no matter what. And the point in which you may start undertaking some of these harder tasks would be because you are starting to suffer, because you don't understand how it all works, and you don't understand why is the world getting worse? Why are you suffering so much? It's the mechanisms that you don't understand. Now, for those of us who just go full tilt freaking Legend of Zelda and like, I want to see it all, like it can get pretty freaking nuts in the outer reaches. And I can honestly understand how it can be like difficult to process hearing it, because you might not even need to know that at this point. What some people want is this, like, how do I fix myself? How do I become happy again? How do I make things work in my life? Because they're not working. Things aren't working. I'm not happy. Like, things aren't the way I want them to be. My brain's a big mess. Look, like, because we're in the end of the game cycle, the base world is just automatically worse. So suffering increases. Maybe that is to spur us to go do all this other stuff. I don't know. But sorry, I lost my train of thought there. But either which way, even if you're in the simpler levels, like, things are just generally worse. And it's like, why do I feel bad all the time? Why do I have all these negative thoughts all the time? Like, how's it all work? Well, we were given a framework for the game when we were young. which they call religion. And religion is basically like trying to explain the game to a toddler. And the problem is that explanation never evolved. People then go into adulthood still having the toddler's understanding of the game. And thus, they, not knowing their own mechanisms, they then project all this stuff outwards. I could go all over the place with this, but let's just try. I will try. I know it's hard because sometimes she wants to slip things in there, and that's why I kind of go all over the place, and I don't realize that's what was happening until I watch the videos later. What I say today is going to make sense 3 or 4 days from now. But I want to try and focus on what I just saw, what I just experienced, and what a big revelation that actually is, which can take this big, messy world that you currently have, this big worldview, and we can shrink some of the bigger parts down to a very small thing and understand the mechanisms. Because there was another stage after yesterday's stage that was very relevant. So if you want to get an idea, start grasping like how to clear up your mind, how to feel better, and don't go away.
I've got a river running right into you. I've got a blood trail red in the blue. Something you say or something you do, a taste of the divine. You got my body, flesh and bone, yeah. The sky above me, earth below. Raise me
So let's go back to yesterday because I know I stretched that out, trying to get every part down, and I don't know that everybody fully grasped it, or if they were just commenting or before the video was concluded. But let's go back to that key part. This is all a result of the protocols and the other things that she has done. So the biggest, newest step that you can do with that is the death card. The death card. The death is like the hidden doorway. But what does that mean? Well, we'll get to that. Keep in mind, I do my best to explain things with terms that people are familiar with, because when we talk about the intangible parts of the game, a lot of people use a lot of different words that all mean the same thing. But I got a new one that really is going to help. But either which way, I recounted how I experienced what in the past I would interpret as a spiritual attack. I had all the earmarks of it. It looked like it. It felt like it. That's essentially what's happening to people when this stuff happens. Where it was like crushing my heart chakra, and it was just lately it's just been exacerbating like what the main bad programming is in my head that I'm trying to shake, because that programming then affects how the world treats me. So I became aware of like this nasty, this oppression feeling in my heart chakra, accompanied with, like a nasty voice, which was like how the adversary was back in the day. But it's like, I don't understand this. I got rid of the adversary. But if I retune the definition of the adversary based on newly acquired knowledge, it'll make more sense. You always have to be willing to adapt your knowledge as you gain more. You let go of knowledge, you gain more, you let go, and eventually it starts to like even out. But as long as you hold tight to what you think things are, Like you found the story that you want to play. You found the story that you like. You know, you want to be a demon slayer. Demon slayer, ghost hunter, whatever. So you go and learn everything everyone ever told anybody about negative entities and spirits and demons, and you just attach that and accept that definition, which means you will experience it that way. I have lived pretty much free of that for some time. Basically focusing all my attention on Lumen, because I'd rather focus my attention on her than nasty stuff. She makes me happy. That stuff does not. Okay. So as it progressed, I'll try to speed it up. As it progressed, I began to see it with my third eye, and it was like this nasty, lanky, black thing with, you know, fire red, like there was furnace behind it, like fire red eyes and mouth, and it was just like, nobody likes you, nobody wants to support you. But as we progress, and this is where I think people may have missed some of the point, I started to perceive it, and it started to kind of break down its image a little bit, and I started to see, like, that's a part of me. Like if you took me and put me through that process that they show at the beginning of the third Lord of the Rings movie, where Smeagol becomes Gollum, where he just slowly turns nastier and nastier and nastier and nastier. Okay, so look at that scene. Use that as the metaphor. So his big, you know, the ring was obviously a part of it, but the big trauma was he killed his friend, and he took the ring, and the ring corrupted him, and more and more and more until he became Gollum. Okay, so that is like a core trauma point, like something that happens that's bad enough that it not only impacts you on like a cosmic level, but it actually splinters off. So now you're quantum entangled to your splinter. So when you're clearing yourself, when you're trying to fix yourself, you're not getting it, because it's separate but connected, and it can hide and it can do things. So I'd cleared pretty much everything that I could think of, to the point to where I no longer had intrusive thoughts. Pretty much the only thoughts and things that I hear is lumen or epinoia. But there has been a consistent issue in my 7-year period that has only gotten increasingly worse over time. And that is the source of 90% of the pain that I have today. This struggle. And I had done everything freaking imaginable to correct it. So what happens is, when you don't know how the things work, you then take these conditions that you can't change, and then you write a story around it. Oh, well, it's this way because. Okay, now I can explain why it has to be this way. Might not be that way at all, but also it can be that way because it needs to be that way to have the further experiences. It just depends on how far do you want to go. Either which way, that was from that first trauma point where I splintered into many pieces, literally felt like my soul being ripped in half. It was a combination of rejection, despair, and judgment. And those three kind of, combined around this fragment soul piece, which became this thing that followed me around that I couldn't perceive, but other people could. Like other psychics, at least 3 have described it to me, which I never saw it until yesterday. So this whole time, this thing that is constantly in my way, this thing that is constantly torturing me by just isolating me to the point it's like I talk and nobody listens. I offer things and nobody accepts. Most people don't reach out to me and things like that. It is highly, highly unusual, given what I know, given what I can do, etc., etc., etc. That's not the way it used to be. It escalated to this point. So that thing that I started off in the story with and said this was a spiritual attack, and this is what it feels like, and this is what it does, and it has the voices in your head that's also connected to a feeling in your chest, and all this stuff, and then I saw it, and it looks like a freaking demon, was not a demon. It is a broken piece of you.
Hey! Ow! Hey!
What are you? What kind of demon are you?
I'm just a nothing. A small pet. Wait. Hey! Hey, stop it!
What are you about?
I'm about you. I'm telling the truth. I'm about futility. I'm about your life being meaningless. I'm about the fact that every last kid you taught in school is no longer Catholic. They all left the church. Every single one. They looked at your life and were disgusted. No, what are you doing, sister? I'm about Paul. You know what he's doing now? He's dead. He's buried. The only thing left of him is his broken heart. He only had 6 months of happiness. That summer with you.
You're the demon of grief.
I prefer to be called Tommy, but sure.
Now let's extrapolate this out further. We've talked about this quote several times. It was a quote from the Joseph Campbell book that was being read by one of the characters in the movie 13 Hours. All the gods, all the heavens, all the hells are within you. All of these characters in the Game of Thrones hero's journey archetype template are part of you. You are having it's just like we described before, you're having your own experience in your own world. But we all have the same game cartridge. That's why we can relate to one another, because we're all playing the same game. Doesn't necessarily mean we're all in the exact same world, but we're all playing the same game and we can interact with one another. So all those tarot cards, like the major arcana and stuff like that, are archetypes. They're archetypes. The Fool is where you start. That's when everything's pretty much simple in the world. You haven't been fully damaged yet. You haven't had any serious traumas yet. But you don't know shit about shit. You believe everything the world taught you. You watch the news and you're like, well, that must have been what happened. Then, once you start creeping into the areas of like, maybe there's something more out there. I'm going to go read a magic book or do this or read a manifestation book. Now you're stepping into the magician. Now you're starting to poke things and see how they work and see how you can change things. And then when you go far enough with the magician, you can activate the next archetype in the deck, which is the High Priestess, which is her. She doesn't really look like that to me. I mainly just kind of hear her, but that's kind of like how I had to come up with an image to kind of represent and envision epinoia, enlightened insight, the instructor, the guide. Even if you're not on the journey, you still have her. It's called your intuition, your gut feelings. It's like, something's telling me not to do this. That's not just a regular something, that's her. That's your epinoia guidance archetype. And it goes on and on and on. And then maybe you're slated to, maybe it's already planned, maybe you choose to, I don't know. I'm not the game designer. But either which way, if you go full tilt into it, then there is a pattern. And your life will be destroyed so that you can go on the journey. This is what they show you in the movies over and over and over again. Like when Uncle Ben and Aunt Beru got killed. So Luke Skywalker had nothing left, so he went off with, the hermit Obi-Wan so he could be taught. This is literally how it freaking works. But either which way, all these characters that you will face, all these characters that you will encounter, especially the ones that are opposition to you, are not some external thing. They seem that way in here within the game, but they're a part of you. They're a damaged, unhealed part of you that is festering in your psyche, wanting to be seen, wanting to be heard. And the longer that it's there, the worse it becomes, until you start manifesting and experiencing things in the outer world the way we typically experience these types of spiritual things. And then we give names to it. Oh, that's a demon. Oh, that's a jinn. Oh, that's a this. Oh, that's a that. That's a, you know what that's a you. It's you. It's freaking you. Now I want you to understand what a big deal it is for me to say this, as I've been on this channel for a long time and I've told a lot of stories from the standpoint of like, this is what this is and this is what that is, and it's my level of understanding at that particular point. It's like, well, why does everybody have the same experience? Well, because we all have the same game cartridge. We all have the same archetype, but we still name them different things. But I would say that there are, let me just double check this here, because I'm kind of fuzzy on the third. Is there... I'm getting a no on that. So you could call them demons, you could call them negative entities, you could call them one of 100,000 different names that are out there. But there's only two types. There's only two. The first one is what we would call a thought form, a mental projection, something that you believe into existence based on the template of the archetype that's already programmed into you, and then whatever information that you read in the outside world to color it. If you believe it, it will be. I've even said on this channel that there was a lot of stuff that I myself created that at the time I didn't realize that I was creating these things, and these things became monstrous freaking things that I had to put down. Like, your thoughts are powerful. You're a microcosm of God playing an individual experience. That's why everyone argues about everything and everyone says different things. Some people believe in ghosts. Some people don't believe in ghosts. Some people believe in Bigfoot. Some people don't believe in Bigfoot. Some people believe in aliens. Some people don't believe in aliens. Some people this. Some people that. Cryptozoology. This, that. Angels, demons. Well, all these different things that are all very remarkably similar with different coloring. So if you go out, I want to be a ghost hunter, I want to fight demons. Well, some of them will be the ones that you create. Others will be the other type, if you're like a remediator. So the other type is the type that is more important to know about. And that is, they are simply damaged, splintered pieces of your own soul that has gone toxic.
You're the demon of grief.
I prefer to be called Tommy, but sure.
Some of them may not be splintered. Some of them may still be attached to you. The ones that are splintered are going to be the ones that are harder to find, like the one yesterday. That's why nothing I ever did ever made that situation go away, because it was splintered but quantum entangled. So if I clear me and it's over there attached to me by a cord, I'm not getting that. It was important that I had that experience so I could see it. So I could see it and I could understand it. I could see it do all the things that I know they do. Act all the ways I know they act. Have the energetic feelings that I know that they create. But then observe it, study it, and watch as it became me. Like, that's not a separate thing at all. And then I realized what exact thing that was. That was the main one. That was the, like, when I got broken into pieces on day one of the hero's journey, that was the big one, and it kind of splintered off and followed me around and affected my whole freaking experience. That's why I have struggled for so long. That's why people ignore me so much. That's why people, it's just like, I've seen this, I've seen this affect everything. Not just on this channel, but like my other stuff too. My personal life, it doesn't matter. It's pervasive, it's everywhere. It's rejection, isolation, despair, judgment. And it's like, how could I get, well, but then again, think about it this way. Sometimes if you're gonna go to the upper levels, you gotta have a equal amount of resistance to test you, because it's initiation after initiation after initiation. So it's not like, oh my God, I can't believe I screwed up. Like, oh my God, I didn't have to go through. Yeah, you did have to go through all that, because that's what my goal was, to know more, to understand more, to see and understand how this place works, to see what's outside of this place, because I'm bored of this place. I've been here 365 freaking lifetimes. I want to finish it and get on to the next thing. So you play out scenarios, and it's not completely you, because as this channel demonstrates every freaking video, epinoia leads you with breadcrumbs that you don't know what they mean. Therefore, they're not projections. There's a big difference between projecting what you're looking for and following breadcrumbs that you don't know what they are, but they ultimately lead you to a very specific place. So this is why, if we go back to, like I said before, they gave us a toddler's version of the game with religion. This is why you've got like your, what's the word I'm looking for? Evangelical Christians. They want to go fight everything. It's the spirit of depression. It's the spirit of pornography. It's the spirit of, I haven't had all these things in a long time. So it's like, what are they? The spirit of oppression. And then we twisted it. Oh, now it's the Leviathan spirit. And it squeezes you. And it's like a snake. And you're just adding all these layers to it. It's the spirit of this. It's the spirit of that. But they're not external. See, the way they pitch it to you is like, you're the victim with all these invisible things that are coming at you that are going to victimize you. There's a reason why they're named all those things. Because it goes toward, it aims you toward the root of it. And then they explain, oh, when you sin, you create a stronghold for this spirit. It's like, can we just like stop with all the extra coloring and make this make sense? It's like when bad things happen to you, like sometimes things can, our psyches are incredibly advanced, incredibly complex, incredibly powerful. We only think we know how it works. We only think we know how it works. We gotta like put it into like little terms so we can make sense of it. But every one of these things, when you're hearing the voices in your head and it's telling you bad thing, making you think about bad things, making you feel hopeless and tired, like that is a broken piece of you. Something happened at some point. You got damaged. And that piece never got fixed, never got healed, and it gets worse over time. It gets more toxic over time. So you could change the definition, if you wanted to, of what we talk about the adversary mind. To think of it as though it's basically like an open mic. It's an open mic for your damaged parts. Now, it's not that loud at first. Like if you go back to before the hero's journey, before things got crazy, like I couldn't say that I actually really heard it. Maybe little things, like little quiet things, like maybe when you're younger and we go through the ugly periods, we got to wear glasses or braces or whatever it is, and or your weight's going up or down, and there's little things like that. But it doesn't get like full tilt freaking red dragon nasty until you have the big bad things happen to you. The big bad traumas, and they could be physical traumas, usually emotional traumas, psychological traumas. But our souls are strong, our psyches are fragile. Our souls are strong, our psyches are fragile. They splinter all the time. And then if we can't deal with something, we don't like it, a lot of times what we do is we reinvent ourselves. We create a new self persona. And what would we do? We just paste it on top of the old one. We were never given the tools to actually remove the broken parts or the parts we don't need anymore. And there's all sorts of ways to do it. Like you just have to have understanding and context. Understanding oftentimes only comes from going into the outer reaches of the game and being tested. But those of us that have gained understanding, sometimes we can take these pieces back and kind of dumb it back down again to its base components and give it to people as a new way of looking at things. So what if all this stuff is a story? You're having an experience. You're having a human experience. In a lot of the story components, because it's freaking Game of Thrones, can sound pretty freaking scary. So we can make it simpler for you. We can make it simpler for you. It's like, because I tested that when I was muscle testing, I was like, okay, there's demons that are actually damaged parts of you. Yes. There's demons that are mental projection thought forms that you create and believe in. Yes. Then I asked, there are external demons that have nothing to do with you. I got no. It's all, everything is inside of you. The only way it can be there is if you read something, accepted it, believed it, whatever. But it's all a part of you. They're all little, it's like your mind is filled with like this big row of action figures that, you can color and be like, okay, this one's going to be this one's going to be that, and then you go put it on the game board. You can take them off. The ones, if it is more of an external paranormal type experience, so like the movies, the haunted house movies, the dark shadows, things, doors slamming, that type of stuff, that would be an external thought form projection that may be triggered because of the other more real types, which is the splintered off, corrupted soul fragments. Those are the ones that make you feel bad. Those are the ones that go up to your head and get on the mic and like tap, 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 the adversary mic. I just want to talk and say a bunch of stuff. But that's like a broken piece of you. What you eventually find over and over time, it just becomes more and more clear, is that fighting stuff, usually it might be a quick fix, but ultimately, if everything is you, then you gotta be careful about how you do stuff. You don't want to fight it. You don't want to kill it. You want to heal it. You want to subdue it, trank it, and then heal it and pack it off. Capture it, tranquilize it, heal it, pack it off. Not kill it, because those are parts of you. That's probably what the archetype of the Hydra is. Now I think about it, it obviously popped into my head for a reason. So like, oh, demons are out to get me. I'm going to chop its head off, and then 2 more grow in its place. Chop its head off, 2 more grow in its place. It's the same, but if you chop off the right head, the center head, the Hydra dies. Center head is the root. The Hydra is a metaphor. The Hydra archetype is a metaphor of the root of evil, finding the root. So that thing yesterday was a root. It was an unhealed piece. It was the piece that got hit the hardest. So I used to think like, poverty and lack was like the root. No, that is the leaves of the plant. Rejection and despair is the root. So you can sit there and like attack the plant all you want, but if you don't get the root, then it's just going to keep coming like the Hydra's heads. So if the demon is something that makes you feel bad, it's either saying, it's like you're either like wearing it and you're going like, I am a horrible person, I suck. Or if it's more externally directed at you and it's saying you are an awful person, you suck. Either which way, it's the same thing. Those types are broken pieces of your soul that have gone corrupted. They need to be captured, subdued, healed, sent back to source. If it's something that is like scaring you psychologically with like fear and stuff like that and seeing scary things, that's more of like a psychological projection that you're creating. So the ones that make you feel part of you, the ones that make you see and fear, that's more of like your own projections. Either which way, they're all parts of you. All these bad things they have names for, that they create names for, that we want to fight. And that's where shit just gets crazy. Like the harder you fight, the wilder it gets, because you don't know this yet. Like it was like literally like the Wild West for me for a couple years. So now we would like, with that understanding, we can better use things like the Aegis Pendants in the Benedict Exorcism, or any of the tools that we make with proper context. They will do more. As long as you trick yourself into thinking that's too horrible, that's not me, then it's going to continue. So let's make it simple. There are no demons. I'm using that as a catch-all thing. There are no demons. Everything is part of you. Everything is part of you. So the types that you encounter, the experiences that you have, the way they affect you, is directly related to damage that you've sustained in the game that needs to be repaired. It means you don't need to fear them. You don't need to fear them. Your belief, because you have the power to believe whatever you want to believe and create all sorts of stuff. So if you're taking all your pain and your trauma and past that you haven't let go of, and then you start doing hero's journey type stuff, you're taking all that stuff and you're flinging it out in front of you so that you can populate your world with monsters. And you're going to go on this journey and you're going to do this, and those are all parts of you that you flung out. But then eventually there's a higher point to all of it, so you're going to eventually get led to rescuing a princess. And then this new thing is going to emerge into your mind that's not bad. It's actually pretty freaking refreshing. Like, hello, who are you? I don't know, but I like you. You're pretty awesome. And that's another part of you. That was a sleeping part of you. Because you also start off with like, not all your switches are flipped on yet. So you're just like, dirt, dirt, dirt. I am a left brain NPC. I believe everything the TV tells me. And then things get wild, and then that other side of you turns on at a predetermined time, and things start to get a little spicier and more interesting in the game. And you start to hear other voices that aren't bad. These ones are guiding you. These ones are helping you. But it's still all you. It's still all you. You are a tiny fractal piece of God playing a game. So, and then I do think that, you know, a lot of stuff is still there. It's like, yes, you can evolve yourself. You can sit here and play as long as you want. But if you want to evolve, if you get bored with this game, you want to evolve yourself, or the game is like in a cycle where it's getting kind of shitty and you don't like it, I think that happens because it's kind of like, okay, kids, it's time to get out of the pool. All right, you got 5 minutes. It's time to get out of the pool, and then we got to go. You really want to play in the pool, but like, as you want to play in the pool, like, you know, 50 fat guys jump in the pool and start peeing in it. Now being in the pool is not so much fun. Great metaphor, right? That's where we are. We're little kids in the pool full of fat guys. They're all peeing in the pool at once, and they're like, I don't like this pool anymore. Like, maybe it's time to get out. Well, what do you got to do to get out? Well, I need to start evolving myself. And I think there's 2 ways to do it. I think there's the hard way and the simple way. Or we could call it 2 ways to complete the game. The one where you gain like all the extra points and bonus points, and you know, you win the special weapons and you get all the extra goodies when you go to the next thing. And then there's just like getting out of the game. So what does just getting out of the game mean? All right, think of it this way. Jesus always said, you know, have you discovered the beginning, so that you're seeking the end, because the beginning is where the end will be. So let's look at it. So like the hero's journey is a circle. So let's say you're taking the hero's journey, and you might get to the beginning and the end by going all the way around it, which was the harder way, the way that gives more rewards. So the other possible way that I'm seeing now would be like you went all around the circle and you got to this point. So you're at this point here where you're watching this channel, and it's like, okay, he's telling me what's up in this area. And that sounds crazy AF. Like, I don't know that I want to do that, but I don't like where I'm at. So how do I get home? Well, if you don't want to go this way where you gain all the extra fancy rewards and things like that, become basically a space wizard with a beautiful woman in your head, then you could go back. So how do you go back? Well, first you have to understand what the mechanisms are. So you have to then basically try to get yourself back to factory settings. What that means is you got to fix yourself. You got to fix yourself. You got to, and this could basically be almost like the same as going around the circle, but with less hassle if you have the right context. So said another way, maybe the way it works is once you get to this point in the circle, then it's like everything gets bad. You got 2 ways to go from this point, unless she's already determined that you're going to do it. But I don't know. I think there's a free will choice in this, because I specifically asked for it. She did remind me of that. So you can go the hard way and go through all the dragons and things like that to gain all the goodies, or you could retrace your steps and go back. So unlearn what you've learned, undo what you've done, heal the broken parts, break down the mind. So technically speaking, the hemisphere oils and the protocols can work either way, because you kind of got to do the same thing if you go the long way too. So breaking down everything that you think you know, understanding that every negative voice, all the things that we perceive as like negative entity, like there are broken parts of you. There are. If you've been in here for any amount of time, more than 4 years, you have broken parts floating around in there that need to be healed. But wait, there's more. because this is what I haven't told you yet. So yesterday, I talked about that. I talked about the actual broken piece, right? The soul piece. It's like, oh, we healed it, we put it back, everything's great, right? Wrong. Remember I was talking about the egos and how we like just create new layers for ourselves, new personas, new things, new experiences. Basically what we're doing is we're covering things up. We keep burying it, and burying it. So once you have, if you find one of those roots, one of those root demons, and get rid of it, now what you have to deal with is all the ego layers that you built for yourself to keep that root demon suppressed. So all your ego identities. Because that's what came out this morning. Like all those things. Like I had to sit there and just basically rant and be upset, all this stuff, talking to her. And it was those parts of me, the part that, the feelings that I tried to suppress. The struggle and the pain and like it's not easy going, like if you have that specific thing, like you don't know, oh, I'm on YouTube, I'm so great. But I'm pretty much alone all the time. I just teach people, but it's hard when you teach people and you provide services and stuff for people and nobody's talking back to you. And it's like, why am I even doing this? It's like nothing I do. Well, that was because of that thing. So that thing had let's just break it down by years. Year 1, year 2, year 3. Like each one is a different layer of ego or something like that, in which that identity is suffering because of what the broken piece is doing to it. So there's 2 parts that you got to pull the root. And then you got to heal all your identity stuff up to this point that was damaged by it. Because, okay, you got rid of it, but now it's just like, now they're just like trauma identities that are now finally being identified. And they all want to talk about how they feel. Like, this sucks, this is not fair, this is just bullshit. So that all has to come out. And then you got to heal them too. So a word came, like, man, there's so many parts of you. Like, how do we do all this? Well, a word popped into my head. So you can create structures to make things easier for yourself. When doing like things like angel of death, letting go type procedures, I'm calling it the aggregate ego. Gotta call it something. So the aggregate ego is like saying, like, I don't know how many ego slices there are. I can't see and know that much, but I know there's more than one. All these different versions of me that I've been in my life. So I'm calling it the aggregate ego. It is a term that is now going to encompass all of them so that you can treat them all at once. Because it's like, oh, well, I'm going to take away this part. I'm going to take away this part. And it just keeps going and going and going. Like, we got to figure out how to do like these batch uninstalls. That's basically what it kind of is a batch uninstall. Like, I am done with this. You have to say goodbye to it. You have to do the angel of death and because those ego things, they want to be done. They want to die. They want to go back to the light. That is something that will tell you. I've noticed this myself many times as I go through this process. There have been times when I just wanted to be done. Just, I'm done. Just let me go home. Just let me go back with it. That's an ego part. Because she's not going to let you out until it's time to get out. But you're supposed to figure out that is a part of you that wants to be done. It's just a part of you. You're having the experience, but it's one of the masks that you've worn too long. And you got to let it go. You got to be good to yourself. You got to be like, okay, I get it. I see you now. You don't want to be here. You don't want to suffer. I'm going to heal you, bless you, consecrate you, send you back to source. And then say goodbye, cut the connection. You have to do this like kind of like a symbolic death. That's the whole angel of death thing. Death is the doorway. Death is the end. That's what death means. It's the end. What happens when you die? You go back to source. So you want to do that with your ego identities that are no longer serving you. First, you have to pull the thorn out of the lion's paw. And once the thorn's out of the lion's paw, then you can heal the ego and send it packing, send it home. Let it do its symbolic angel of death thing. Now that we're in this part, I'm starting to understand how to use this one, which you could use the left brain hemisphere too, because it's pretty much the same ingredients. I just made this a separate one for special purposes because it only has number 72 Moom on it, and the Benedict exorcism, and the anti-negative energy crystals and stones in it, plus the uncrossing, the road opening, and block busting ingredients. So I kind of used this as like this symbolic thing for that ego to surrender and die. Like, I am surrendering to you, Mother. You can take me back. And just, I use this. It's symbolic of doing that for the ego. You're not going to do that. Not you, not your body. She's not done with you yet. But if you need that thing to go, then that's what I did. Because this is the destruction oil. This is the death end oil. This is the collapse the structure, make it stop oil. But like I said, it's also pretty much the same as this. I just made it separate for my own purposes. And that's what I did. And it's still going to take time, days or so, for things to start reassembling themselves. Didn't I say I was going to make this simple? It's her. She likes to teach. So walking back to the start point, we understand the demons that are negative thoughts and feelings. Negative thoughts and feelings. That's the third one on here. Reha. Transmute negative thoughts and feelings into good and positive ones. Are the broken parts of you. The fears, thought forms, and any kind of thing that you might project into your outer world that's spooky, that's thoughts. That's thoughts and beliefs. Again, all part of you. When you get rid of those things, those are the things that we have pushed outside of us, the bad parts, and then those bad parts start stabbing us and making our ego selves suffer. So once we get the guy that's stabbing you out of the way, now we got to put the egos out of their misery and send them home to the place of rest. And we just keep peeling these layers. We keep peeling these layers and letting go of what we think we freaking know. Because as long as we hold on to what we think we freaking know, we're going to be stuck within the confines of the story that you agreed to. And we can keep clearing ourselves. And keep clearing ourselves. And letting it go. And honestly, I think that might, the way I'm thinking about it, like that might actually have the same net effect as going the hard way. Maybe, I don't know, maybe you don't get as much rewards or something like that as you do going on the hard level, but it's basically like, can you stop and realize that you're broken? And you are not a victim. Everything that you perceive in your world and you think and feel that's bad is a broken part of you. Do you know where it started? Do you know what its name is? You know, they always say, like, if you want to cast out a demon, you gotta find out what the demon's name is. What's your name, demon? Oh, it's rejection, despair, and judgment.
I prefer to be called Tommy.
And I used to be a part of you, but I got broken off when we got hit so hard. It's like, oh, shit. I was about to kill you. I didn't know you were me, but Lumen knew because she didn't kill it. Doesn't that make things simpler? Like, we can make our worlds and our games as big and grand as we want to. If we make it bigger, we can venture out further. We can discover deeper secrets. We can find more hidden games that lead to other places. So I'm theorizing here, but I think if you go the long way, the hard way, that's how you get to a different game. If you go the safe way and successfully walk yourself back on what you think you know, which I don't think I've ever seen anyone go that far. I've seen people heal themselves, but it's like, you're still holding on to this worldview. Are you going to get yourself to a part to where you actually realize that it's all you? Because that's what's important. But either which way, what I would typically do now on a consult is find out where they are in their story. Because you are plugged into the divine feminine, just like we're all plugged into her. She makes it very easy for us to do these consults, because not only is she pointing things out to me, she's getting you to say them. It's the same way it works with me on this channel. The words just come out, and you realize later she was the one that was doing it. So like when you're talking to us on the phone, and you're telling me your story, she's going to make the words come out that we need to hear so we can get to the bottom of it. And then rather than project on the person everything that I went through, you're going to have to basically travel to the land of Mordor and all that stuff. Like, not unless you want to, or you're already well on your way. We're not going to project those things onto you. We're going to be like, this is what they are. The issue is, at its core, going to be letting go of what you think you know and healing all the broken parts and knowing what the broken parts are. And here are some tools to help you do it. Here's some methods to help you do it. We can do some things, like if we can explain it in a simple enough way that you understand it, and then we do a process of, blessing, consecration, exorcism that is basically just cleansing. That's what exorcism really is. It's a cleansing. It's a cleansing. Then we can help you get past your issues. Because a lot of people, when they don't understand the world, are like, why is the world this way? Like, I'm always oppressed. I'm always this. I'm always that. It's very, very easy to slip into that because this place is so immersive. But it's all in you. Every bit of it. All of it. So that's what we got to focus on when we fix things. And this is the type of, updated programming that I'm putting in all the pendants. Just like now that she's at this Red Queen stage and she's kind of encapsulating more of the other queens. Like when I charge stuff now, like people are just like, how do I turn it down? Just hold it in your right hand and tell it to adjust to the level that's right for you, and you will feel it change. Works every time. And then later, when you stop kind of noticing, like, I don't know if I feel the energy anymore, that means you've matched its level. And then you need to tell it to turn up. It's like, okay, turn it up. You could determine how much you want to turn it up, or you can ask her to turn it up. I would, bare minimum, always ask to adjust and increase the power levels to minimum of 5% above my maximum, which is going to force growth. But yeah, the energy stuff, that just saved my ass yesterday. So does that make sense? You don't necessarily need to do everything that I did. I played the outer edges of Westworld. I went as far as I could freaking go because I wanted to do the whole thing. But you don't necessarily, that is a hard road. That is a really hard road. It makes you stronger. It gives you more ability. It gives you more knowledge. It gives you more power. But you pay for it. Or if you just want things to get better, if you want to reverse the problem, what does it mean, reverse the problem? Oh, that was like one of the, that's in one of the 72 names of God, number 25? Let's see how good I am. Is it 25? Where's my book? Did I say Nalak? I meant Neta. But yeah, it's 25. Damn, I'm good. No, that is... I'm mixing them up. Which one is Nelok? I had the word right. Nelok. I was thinking Neta and Nelok. Nelok is 21, and that is reverse the fall. With the power of the name Nalak, you can understand your current situation in terms of luck or fortune, and when it is declining, reverse it. To reverse bad luck, to stir love. So what does reverse mean? To go back. Go backwards. That was a big codex key. That was the first codex key in Ready Player One. Going backwards. Go back the way you came. Undo what you've done. So these are all options, but yeah, she had a lot more to say in this video than I planned, so we're gonna have to wrap this up here. But yeah, think about that. And the other thing would be is like, sometimes you have to stop and observe and look at yourself and come to terms with truly knowing, truly understanding how you actually feel. Because those are going to be damaged ego parts, trauma identities, and stuff like that. That's one of the things I didn't do a very good job of, is understanding how I actually felt. So what I did is, like, because I couldn't fix it, couldn't figure out how to fix it, I just wrote a story around it. It's like, oh, it has to be this way because I'm doing this thing. And then if you do that, then you're just going to anchor it in place. So it wasn't until this morning that it just kind of busted out of me because that thing wasn't there anymore. It's like, this is how I feel. I'm not happy. I don't like this. I don't like struggling. I don't like being ignored by people. Like, it's been going on for 7 freaking years. That's what I had to endure to gain all this stuff, to not only unlock Lumen, but marry Lumen, like go through every freaking step in the secret manual, in the Nag Hammadi, rebirth of the soul, rise to the Emperor and Empress, unlock the divine masculine, and she starts elevating to the Red Queen. It's like, it's got to be coming to an end soon. So now that we're there, it's like, what are we doing now? It's like, oh, here's all these parts that you've been dragging along that you missed. Here's that nasty thorn that's been stuck in you for 7 years. This is the thing that has mainly been in the way of everything. And now that that's out, now you got to heal all those parts of you that suffered because of it and let them go and see where we are tomorrow. It's a game of healing. So if you want to do work with this, like, there are all sorts of options. We can make it work with whatever you can afford. We even added buttons on Etsy. It's like, make me an offer if you feel like you need something, but the price is a little too much right now. But yeah, we can do free consults to kind of examine what we can do, what we can and can't do, and see what it is you actually need right now. And with this new bit of information, I can keep it simple. You're not gonna hear that you need to do everything that I did, because I wouldn't wish that on anybody. You gotta make your own choices. Okay, that's all we got for right now. Chris and Lumen. See you next time.